Hey, everybody. For those of you just jumping on and tuning in, it's been a minute since we've done a live stream here. Wanted to take some time tonight to talk about the weather and what's happening out there. We got a lot going on between the tropics and some flooding that's taking place out in the Midwest, and wanted to see how everybody's doing. Check in and talk to you and see where you're watching from. There's a lot of talk about activity out in the tropics. Things are kind of heating up. We're getting right into peak season now. This is typically when a lot of stuff starts to form in terms of our main development region, which kind of runs from off the coast of Africa all the way westward to the Lesser Antilles and off the coast of Florida. This is typically the time of year that things start heating up a little bit more in those areas. And we've already seen a couple of tropical waves already this week. So I want to talk about the two tropical waves that we have out there right now, one of them that has a little bit more attention than the other, and then also show you some of the rainfall that's taking place tonight in the Midwest and the high rainfall rates and sort of why we're expecting two back-to-back moderate risk days in terms of flooding out there. Risk level 3 out of 4 from the Weather Prediction Center with flooding out in the Midwest. So tune in, let me know where you're watching from and what the weather's like where you are, and we'll start diving into some of this stuff. Somebody said never see you live. Yeah, it's been a minute since I've done a live stream. Kind of was in the mood tonight to talk weather and see how all of you guys are and chat a little bit. So let's talk about what's happening out there right now. Joey wants to know, what's the weather in South Florida? Another question about what's happening out in Illinois. Somebody's commenting, Garrett from Illinois said it's really hot outside. Illinois is a flood risk today and tomorrow. So two things I wanted to talk about in the live stream is what's happening with the tropics and then also what's going on with all the flooding out there. Dominator3 says, hey, Chad. Hey, how's your Saturday night going? Hopefully everybody's having a good Saturday night. I'm in Texas and it's hot. We have the ridge of high pressure out to the west, out over New Mexico. It's kind of retrograding, moving back westward, but heat has been intense, but still cooler than normal here in Texas in terms of how our July and August wind. Still not cool though. When you walk outside, it's in the 90s and low triple digits every day. Doesn't feel great. All right, let's talk first tropics, then let's talk what's happening with the flooding. So here's what the satellite looks like out in the Atlantic right now. A couple little areas to talk about. First of all, check out our two tropical waves that we have at the moment. You can see one of them is coming off the Cape Verde Islands. And this is the one that kind of has the buzz, that has all the attention as it heads westward into the main development region here over the next couple of days. The environment out here is fairly conducive for some tropical development. In fact, we're already seeing a little bit of the spin with this wave that's coming off of Africa out towards the Cape Verde Islands. And the National Hurricane Center today has actually designated it as Invest 97L, right? So that just means it's a spot that we're paying a little closer attention to. And here's kind of a more in-depth or zoomed in look here at the satellite. And if you look closely, you can actually see the low pressure center that is formed and the counterclockwise swirl that we have going here with this wave. It kind of came right off of Africa, and as soon as it moved into the open waters of the Atlantic, it started getting this spin. Didn't take long for the spin to intensify a little bit, and now we have that low pressure center that is formed, hence the designation of Invest 97L, and then you have the Cape Verde Islands out here. So this will head west through tonight and into tomorrow, and then it runs into the open Atlantic, where again conditions are marginally favorable over the next day or two for development, and then they get a little bit more favorable heading into next week. And National Hurricane Center yesterday, they had this at a low chance of development. We have the designation now of Invest 97L, and the development chances have gone up. So now we're up to 60% over the next 7 days. So as mentioned, notice low chance, 10% chance over the next 2 days, even though we have that spin the INVEST designation, the defined low pressure system, the chance of getting anything significant here through the next 48 hours low, it's at 10%. And then the chances ramp up to about medium, which is why we have the orange out here for the next 7 days. I think especially early to middle of next week as we get the low into our main development region, the tropical wave out here in the main development region, more than likely we're going to get a tropical storm and a hurricane. And then obviously the big question is what happens after that? Where does it go? And right now we're probably still about 10, maybe a little bit more than that days out from actually seeing any type of U.S. impacts from the system. So still kind of a ways to go with that until we can, really be able to pinpoint and get a better idea as to possibly what kind of impacts we may feel in the U.S. from this one, if any at all. Some of the recent guidance today in terms of the steering pattern with that ridge of high pressure has backed off a little bit on the straight westward track and jots the system a little bit more to the northeast. And so because of that, I think it's too early to conclude and to say anything for sure in terms of where this one may go. So right now it's Invest 97L, AL 97 out here, and too soon to say for sure where it'll go or where it'll head. I'm just trying to get your comments loaded up because I know some of you have questions and I want to make sure I answer those as we work through some of this, getting the live stream working here. But yeah, busy times out in the Atlantic right now. And then we have another little tropical wave too, as we get back to the satellite here. Notice this one, this kind of had all the buzz the other day, which is way out here now in the central Atlantic. Big ridge of high pressure, which is going to steer this one to the northeast. That ridge is pretty strong right now, so there isn't any major concern in terms of that one moving into really anywhere. Bermuda not at play here. The Lesser Antilles not going to be at play either. That one will head straight northeast. And then obviously watching our main wave here, AL 97, Invest 97, that has a better chance of development over the next week or so. So that's what we have going on right now in terms of the tropics. I want to show you the Euro ensemble members. And remember, this is basically several different members here that have an idea of what may happen with this system. And keep in mind, the further out we go, obviously the reliability is going to start to decrease a little bit more, but I do want to show it to you because here it comes off of, again, the Cape Verde Islands here. You get the clusters really tight together, so there's high confidence in where this will go over the next couple of days as it starts to develop. Again, low chance of development for the next few days, and then as we get towards Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the chance of actually getting a tropical storm, perhaps a hurricane, is going to start to increase a little bit more. Here's our ridge of high pressure, which is here. And a lot of what's going to happen, at least through the next 5 to 6 days with this tropical wave, is going to be dependent on how strong this ridge is. The stronger the ridge, the more likely it is that this eventual tropical depression, tropical storm, maybe hurricane is going to follow right along the flow of that ridge of high pressure, which is clockwise. That would steer it more so to the northeast. But regardless, over the next few days, confidence high that this works off the Cape Verde Islands. We start to get a little more development here up to tropical depression, tropical storm, maybe hurricane status as we get towards Tuesday. The ensemble members are very tightly clustered through about Tuesday regarding where this will go. And then after that, notice how the members start to split off. And remember, we're just using the Euro members right now, the ECNS. This is not even factoring in any of the other computer models. Sometimes Euro does a little bit better when it comes to tropical waves, tropical systems, hurricanes compared to the global forecast model, GFS, and some of the other ones out there. But even as we get towards Wednesday into Thursday, some of the members here become a little bit less confident. There's less of a tight cluster as to where exactly future, probably tropical storm, maybe Hurricane Aaron will go. So now we're at Thursday. And again, you're starting to see a little more spread. Some of these a bit further south, others further north. And I think these members are starting to pick up on, some of them see a stronger ridge of high pressure to the north, others see a weaker ridge. And oftentimes, we talk about this year after year, when you get these systems in the main development region, it all comes down to the ridge and that Atlantic ridge and how strong it is. So at least through Thursday, confidence moderate that this system kind of rides right through the main development region. And then obviously, because we're getting further down the road, confidence is going to start to decrease Thursday into Friday. This is now going to be about a week out or so as to what happens next. And you can see the European computer model members start to split a little bit more. Now, I will say this, and I mentioned this a second ago, we're now looking at next Sunday, more than a week out. And you have computer models and members here that bring this towards the Lesser Antilles. Not quite as numerous with the low tracks here towards the Lesser Antilles, and then eventually towards Puerto Rico, Haiti, the Dominican Republic out here. Not as many members as I think some of the runs that we were seeing last night, early this morning. More of our members kind of take that north-northeast jog, bringing in a stronger ridge of high pressure, and then curving this one out to sea, just like the past couple of tropical waves. But obviously, again, it's too soon to say for sure. We're a week out, and with these tropical waves, tropical storms, hurricanes through the main development region, until you get to about 3, 4, 5, 6 days out from possible U.S. impacts, it's really hard to say for sure exactly where it's going to go and what kind of impacts the system will bring. So it's just one to watch. The hurricane models are running now that we have the INVEST designation, and the hurricane models, again, all pretty tightly clustered along this westerly track for the next couple of days. The intensity models also come up quite a bit here as we get towards more than 48 hours out. So low chance of development per the National Hurricane Center over the next 48 hours. So that takes us through the rest of the weekend, keeps us at a tropical depression, maybe getting up to tropical storm status. And then as you get closer here, 72, 84, 96 hours out is when you start getting a little more intensification. I do think it's more than likely we're going to be dealing with, again, at least Tropical Storm Aaron as we get towards early next week, possibly hurricane, Cat 1, Cat 2, and then you have, again, one of the hurricane models taking this all the way up to Cat 3, Cat 4 status, which it is peak season now, not completely out of the question, but because this is still so far out, again, 10 days, it's tough to say for sure one way or the other. So a lot to look at here and a lot to watch. But the main takeaway message is there's nothing to be overly concerned about right now in terms of a major hurricane threat to the U.S. Lesser Antilles might want to pay a little more attention to this one, but the guidance here through a lot of the computer models has been more of a north-northeast jog with 97L through this afternoon, through this evening's run, and a stronger ridge of high pressure. But obviously, all of that is subject to change here over the next couple of days, and honestly, more than likely will change. That just kind of is how these things go. There's low forecast confidence this far out. All right, let's talk about what's happening out in the Midwest right now, because there